G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky, back at it again with another r/entitled parents video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down to the comments, or a koala, or a kangaroo, or a kookaburra. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn onto the barbie, I know it's getting full of prawns right now, and get ready for some bloody Karens. Now our first post is by user AngelFire224, titled, "So what, I left you to die, I still deserve your money." Hey guys, I hope everyone is safe at home. Not my story, I read about it in the local newspaper years ago. It was quite a well-known story at the time. An elderly doctor couple with no children came to know about a newborn baby girl who someone had left in a waste dump. The baby was about to die. They took her to a hospital and then formally adopted her. Years later, the girl herself became a doctor and earned good money. An old, poor couple came to the girl claiming to be her biological parents and demanded that she give them the money as they didn't have any means to provide for themselves. The girl didn't believe them, but after DNA tests, it was proven that they were indeed her biological parents. How they knew, that wasn't mentioned in the article. The couple kept demanding money from her, saying as she was their daughter, it was her responsibility to look after them in their old age. When the girl asked them why they left her to die, they tried to justify their actions, and said that if they hadn't left her there, she wouldn't have so much money right now. It was because of them she had money, and so they deserved some of it. They wanted money as their other kids, sons mostly, didn't earn or didn't want to take care of them. When the girl refused, they threatened to go to court against her. In retaliation, she sued them for abandonment and a few other charges. There was no follow-up article, so I don't know what happened to the girl or those pathetic excuses for human beings. And our next post was by user Tartar Buildup. Ooh, don't get that on your teeth. You want me to stop speaking Welsh? In Wales? Hi Reddit, I posted here a while back about an entitled dad making fun of me for stuttering in a coffee shop. This little gem occurred mid last year. Also, there's going to be a lot of hard to pronounce words here, so just in the slim chance Yugo's owner, Bay, covers this, I'm gonna include pronunciation tips. Our cast are entitled mother, little boy, old guy, and yours truly. So for context, I was born in a country in North Wales called Gwynedd. Sounds like Gwyneth. And as such, I'm part of a tiny minority because I didn't even begin learning English until I was about 11 or 12. I'm 21 now, so naturally I'm much more comfortable speaking my native language, Welsh. Now, because I wasn't content to be a farmer or a primary school teacher, I moved down south and ended up in Cardiff, where only something like 7% of people can speak any Welsh. No problem, I'm confident enough speaking English by now. I should also preface that I'm autistic and not good with confrontation at all. I also stutter a lot when I speak English. So I've been working in a coffee shop for a little while now, dealing with people and just generally starting to get settled in. One day, I met a kindred spirit. This elderly man who's been coming in regularly, more for company than coffee. Whenever I see him, I get his order ready right away, and I sit with him when I've got a few spare minutes. I say he's a kindred spirit because he's another native Welsh speaker, but speaks very little English. I find that's a bit odd considering he lives in Cardiff, but overly the next few days, he tells me about his life. Old guy tells me how he grew up in Fweli, sounds like Pŵl Sheli, okay, which makes me really happy because I'm from Caernarfon, which is just a little ways north. He tells me how he owned a fishing boat and used it to make his living while his wife worked as a teacher. They moved down to Cardiff together into a really big house when his wife finally retired. And this went pretty smoothly since she could speak fluent English and handled most things outside. Recently, older guy's wife died of leukemia, which has made life a lot harder for him. The guy had a fantastic sense of humor, and I was happy to sit and keep him company, if only for a little while here and there. I guess it was nice for him to actually be able to have a solid conversation with someone. My manager used to know the guy's wife as both of them came in here a lot before that I started working, so he was always sympathetic and made sure to pick up the slack a little bit as a result of me chatting with him. Even though I'm not fantastic at being social, older guy had a great outlook on life, even for a widower. He always had the most interesting stories to tell, including one time he recounted how he swam back to shore after his little sailboat capsized in a storm. He always had this "screw all of you, I'm my own free bear" kind of attitude, which I admired a lot. One day, we're gibbering away, and Entitled Mother comes over with a little boy's hand clutched in hers. Entitled Mother says, "Shouldn't you be doing your job?" Oh, it's fine. Don't worry, I'm still clearing tables, but my manager asks me to keep an eye on this one gentleman. Older guy is confused at this point, barely understanding a word. So I explain to him that she's just asking about something. What? What was that? She gets really in my face now. I'm starting to get extremely nervous, and I can barely get my words out. What did you say to him? Here you are slacking off. Speak English. Poi you he? Who's she? Poi you he. Okay. I explained to older guy she's demanding we speak English. At this point, I'm kind of just stalling talking directly to this woman, as I'm not sure even what to say. The little kid she's with is looking slightly alarmed at what his mum is doing. You're in Wales. Speak English for God's sake, not this Middle Eastern crap. Excuse me? You heard me. Mum, are we getting food yet? Not yet. Mummy's talking. Dwi thin an siarad Saesneg, but I don't know any English. This sends Entitled Mother into a right huff, and she looks around the shop, appealing to the other customers. Sorry, but I don't appreciate lazy foreigners in my country in my coffee shop. Yes, she really said my. What kind of example are you setting for my son? At this point, another customer, who undoubtedly heard older guy and I having a very animated conversation, calls to her from the other side of the shop and says, "Hey lady, you're in Wales. They're speaking Welsh. You knew that, right?" A few other customers started giggling a bit before shaking their heads dismissively and going back to what they were doing. Entitled Mother says, "Stay out of it." She snaps at the customer, then turns back to me, although she's certainly gone a deep shade of red now. She's obviously doubling down. At this point, I'm just kind of frozen in social anxiety, not sure how to turn my mind words into mouth words anymore. Yeah, we're in what? Go on, say something then, and it better be in English. I look briefly to older guy who just had this evil, malicious compliance look grin on his face. In the thickest Welsh accent I can imagine, he says, "Turn around now. Go right now. Finger your mum, cheeky cow." Anyone in the immediate vicinity just got silent and stares. Even I straight up was not expecting that to come out of the guy's mouth. In a right huff, Entitled Mother stomps out of the shop, wailing little boy clutched in hand. I look at older guy who just bursts into a fit of laughter. "How did you know how to?" Older guy then cuts me off and goes on to explain to me that his wife taught him to say that because she had this friend who would constantly poke fun at him, knowing he wouldn't understand. His wife would nudge him and he'd deliver the line to shut her up. "OG, even though you're not with us anymore on Earth, I will never forget you and your refusal to take anyone's bullcrap. I wish I had you for a granddad. RIP. And our next post is by user This Requires a Burner, titled, "I just saw a lady get tasered for trying to snatch a woman's face mask to give to her child. I argued with my husband about whether or not to post this, because I'm pretty sure this will make the local news, and I don't want to burn this account just yet. But he won RPS, so here we are. Prepare yourself, this story has layers, like ogres and onions have layers. So, we were at the dreaded big box store, picking up potting soil because we are going to DIY ourselves through the isolation. Things aren't crazy here yet, but there is a 2 per customer limit on a majority of items. I assume this means everything, so we're getting 2 bags each of a few different types of soil. My husband is loading the last of the 8 bags on our cart when I hear her. I know it's a Karen just by the level of unnecessary outrage in her voice. Are you kidding me? Not a lot of people out here in the garden center, but we all look at her. I was almost disappointed she didn't come with the requisite haircut. She actually looked like a frazzled mum, her kid tugging on her hand with an over-full hand basket of groceries. And I had a moment of, girl, I feel you, but damn it, she was pointing at us. You can't buy that many. You are hoarding! Yeah, we can. We're getting 2 each. Oh, you don't fool me. I know what you're doing. So do I. Frick off. I'm just sitting there imagining all the ways I'm gonna rock his world tonight. Well, Karen huffed at that, spun around and yanked her kid back inside to go complain to the employee working at the register nearby. Now, we've already paid for our items. The employee had to come out and scanned the bags earlier, and he could easily see our cart from inside. So, being finished, we pushed the cart out of the garden center into the parking lot. And then the automatic doors open behind us and I hear, "Now they're stealing! Just great!" We load the soil into the car and turn around to bring the cart back and look at the plants. By the time we get back, Karen has given up on trying to convince the employee that we're the Bonnie and Clyde of dirt and is now trying to negotiate skipping somebody in line. She has a child, you see, and her handbasket, well, it's just so full and heavy. Could she please just scooch right on in real quick and it'll just be an extra second, she swears. The woman Karen is trying to skip is young, maybe college age, and wearing a face mask. Not a medical mask, but the sketchy kind you'd wear while riding a motorcycle or when you're skiing. My husband has just informed me that it's a neck gaiter. So the mask is black and has scary wolf teeth on it that honestly made the girl look like somebody you should not screw with, even though she was wearing a Gap t-shirt and flip-flops. Mask Girl is just shaking her head no, and that's all I got as we dropped off the cart. I browse, pick up a couple plants, and we head inside to wait in line. Now, it's showtime! Karen and Mask Girl are near the register facing off, no pun intended. From the looks of things, Mask Girl finished her purchase and Karen stopped her before she could leave. I don't know if she grabbed her or anything, but Karen was still holding her full hand basket, so she hadn't checked out yet. Well, she hadn't paid for her groceries yet because clearly the woman had checked out. Karen's like, "But you don't need it now. You're leaving. My son could get sick because you won't give it to him. He needs it." "Hell no, you can't have it. Back off, lady. But my son really likes it, and it's obviously made for boys anyway. Why would you even want to wear something so scary?" "Because I like it, and it has my germs on it. Why would you put a stranger's mask on your kid?" "Ugh, why are you being so rude? You wouldn't let us go through the checkout first, and now you're making my son very upset." "Your problem, mate, not mine." And then the Mask Girl turns to leave, while Karen manifests the biggest balls ever and grabs Mask Girl by the back of her mask. Let me make a side note here. When all of this is going down, we're just standing in line watching. The register is still going boop, 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 as the employee scans items, but otherwise we are all just inside this hypnotic bubble. But when Karen reached out towards Mask Girl, it was like the bubble popped and made everything crystal clear. Not slow-mo or anything, but I absolutely felt hyper-aware, like Spider-Man. Karen reaches out. People on both sides of me inhale loudly. Karen grabs the mask and yanks. A lady on my right yells, and my husband steps forward. So getting laid tonight. Mask Girl tucks her head down and she turns to Karen like a ticked-off bull with a bright and shiny new target. I think Karen was going to say something like, "Don't walk away from me," or something, but all she got out was, "Don't crack!" I look around because the noise was so loud, I figured the roof was about to cave in. But out of the corner of my eyes, I see Karen spasm and drop to the floor writhing. Little Miss Mask Girl had a frickin' taser. I don't know when she pulled it out, this tiny little flashlight looking thing, but she laid Karen out with it. And not one of us moved for what felt like forever, like we were frozen. And then it was frickin' bedlam. Security guards show up, more employees show up. Mask Girl is chillin' like she's been through this before and knows what comes next. The kid is screaming that the wolf girl killed his mum, even though she's groaning and sobbing on the floor and clearly not dead. But maybe wishing she was. The people that had been in line with us were all talking at once, trying to tell the security guard what had happened. We hung around, just witnessing the insanity for maybe 2 minutes, before Karen started choking out demands for an ambulance, the police, the lawyer, the mayor, restitution, and reparations. My husband made eye contact with an employee and got a thumbs up when he put the plants on a shelf and pointed towards the door. We got the hell out of there. We drove home in silence until my husband parked the car in our driveway, and then we just burst out laughing. Neither of us have ever seen anything like that before. We live in a small beach town, people are super laid back and mellow. Karen was anything but, and I hope to never see her again. ETA, not sure what the awards mean. But I thank you very much. I made this account to tell a story that happened 25 years ago, and blew my shot on a Karen instead. Slowly responding to messages, but to answer a couple of questions, I can't access security footage, I am an unreliable narrator in what Karen's body actually did, I was not looking directly at her, but she flailed, fell, and squirmed while groaning? Yum. I do not know the difference between a taser and a stun gun. Masked Girl had what looked like a thin baton flashlight. We have very lax taser laws in this state. Thanks for reading, take care of yourselves, and stay safe. And our next post is by user Lurid Fox, titled, Soccer Mom is mad that I fired her no-show daughter. So SM is the entitled soccer mom, SD is the daughter who works under me and also plays soccer, 18 years old, and me is Moi. So, this takes place a few years back. It was shortly before the store manager abruptly quit, and I ended up running the store for a third of the year. Part of my role involved dealing with staffing issues. At this Dress for Less store, it is very hard to get fired, for anything, including being a no-show. If you had 2 consecutive no-shows or 3 consecutive no-shows in a short period, you could be let go for job abandonment. You could call in all the time and still have a job, and some did for a while, but then you would get a lot fewer hours after that, because we could not rely on you. My boss was still making the schedule, and he based it around the availability that was provided to him by staff. So, Soccer Daughter had turned in her availability at the start of the semester, and she was scheduled around that. She had maybe 1 to 2 days a week scheduled tops. At this point, she had not shown up for about 2 weeks, leading to 3 non-consecutive days. I worked that evening and tried to call to get a hold of her. On the second day of her not answering about 3 calls, I decided to leave a voicemail. Hi SD, this is me at retail store. Due to you having 3 consecutive days of not showing up for work, we are going to have to end your employment with us. Reach out to me if you have any questions at 555-555-5555. Thank you. It was the script my company gave to me. I let my manager know and all was settled. The next morning, I opened the store, and at the moment I was in the office getting some paperwork ready for the day. The phone rang and I picked it up to an angry voice demanding to speak to me. I politely said that I was me, and how could I be of help? She proceeded to yell at me how I ruined her daughter's day. I stated that I did not know who she was referring to, but that I do not recall doing anything today that could be looked at that way. She then told me she was SD's mum, and that what we did was unprofessional and horrible. I told her that since SD is 18, I cannot go into details of her daughter's employment. My daughter's just a kid, she screamed. Well, legally that's not true, I replied. Well, you scheduled my daughter for times she cannot work, and when she has school and practice, so she should not be fired. I calmly replied that we staff our stores based on the availability that is provided to us, and it is set in the system so that it will only allow that. She said that is not true, and that her daughter is on a soccer scholarship at local community college. I replied, that is good for her, but if she is scheduled to work and cannot, she needs to be able to let us know, as we do have a business to run. My daughter is going to school on a soccer scholarship, and she has to practice hard on soccer, so you have to work around that, she yelled. We staff based on availability we are provided, and for the staff to be employed here, they do have to show up for their shifts, I replied, a little testily. At this point she followed up with, my daughter is going to school to get a much better job than you have in retail. She's gonna be a teacher. I curtly replied, oh that's nice, one of my degrees is in education. And you work here? She said demeaningly. I do. And luckily, it pays about twice as much as teachers make, so there is nothing in you that can talk down to me, I replied angrily as I slammed the phone. The job market for teachers sucked, and I wasn't necessarily delighted with my career at the moment due to some life situations. She called back immediately, and I picked it up, and when I heard it was SM, I hung up again. She did not call back after. Alright, so our next post is by Schrader, titled, "Entitled Mother Snaps at Me for Asking Her to Look After Her Child." So, this happened about a month ago. I was on a skiing holiday with my parents, and everything was fine until that one day, when the Fire Nation attacked. It was nice and sunny, so the slopes were crowded, and skiing normally was almost impossible. There was no room, a lot of beginners, and as always, the ones who just thought they could ski but actually couldn't. Back in the day, about 30 years ago, my mum hurt her knee really badly while skiing, and has since been really scared that she could get hurt again. Therefore, she mostly goes really slow and on the side of the slope. The slope where we were was partially closed due to the warmth, so you had to ski around the closed part. Now, the closed part was not prepared at all, so it was basically just a snowy ledge. Enter entitled mother and her kids. My mum stopped at the ledge to avoid the crowd, but she couldn't go around it right then because there were just too many people skiing too fast, and along came entitled mother with her kids skiing in front of her. One was about 13 but could barely stop next to my mum, like really close next to her, about half a meter maybe. The other one was about 5 and was still learning. He could not stop. He ran straight into my mum, almost causing himself and her to fall down the ledge. My mum got really scared and skied away, so I decided to talk to them. The conversation went something like this. EM is entitled mother, OB is older brother, D is dad. I say to the older brother, "Excuse me, I saw that your brother was having trouble stopping. So could you maybe look a bit more after him? I think it would be better if he would ski between your parents, so it's safer for him." "Yeah, sure, I'm sorry." "Okay, great, then what's going on?" "Oh, she was just asking us to let little brother ski in between you and dad." "And who are you?" "I saw that your kid had trouble stopping and ran into my mum, and they almost— So what? He's still learning. Your mum could handle it." "I know that he's learning, but it's really dangerous with this many people around. He and my mum could have fallen off the ledge. Maybe you should go on another slope. It would be much safer." "Yeah? Why don't you go to a different slope then if your mum's scared of little kids?" "Ma'am, this slope up here is black. We have 3 colors, blue, red, and black. Blue being the easiest, black being really steep, and only for advanced skiers. And I don't think it is safe to ski here with your kid if you say he's still learning, and you just let him run around here all alone. Who are you to talk? You're just a kid. You don't know anything. Look, I'm 19, and I've been skiing since I was 3. You probably can't even ski yourself, and just want to brag about your rental equipment. Having your own skiing equipment is kind of a status symbol for those rich people who go skiing once a year, and travel to the most expensive resorts just to sit in the cabin all day. I don't have rental equipment, as we go skiing a lot in winter, and I'm more comfortable using my own stuff, instead of getting used to new equipment every time." The dad's like, "Honey, just leave it alone, please." I say to the older brother, "Just look a bit more after him, please. I don't want him to get hurt." "Oh, we will." "Okay then, bye." "Bye?" After that, I caught up with my parents and told them the story. They just shook their heads. I hope the kid is fine and didn't get hurt that day, but I've seen it so often that little kids get run over by those idiots, who disregard the rules and just have to ski super fast, even though they're not that great of a skier and can barely keep their skis from slipping away. Whew, that was a long one. Anyway, let's go to a longer one, by user He Who Dies, titled, "Enjoy. These are all personal experiences. Feel free to ask about anything specific in the comments. I no longer have contact with them or give a crap." Context: I'm 38, father of a 15-year-old, and married to a wonderful woman. Life turned out just fine. TLDR, 37 years of abuse from 2 people who birthed me, ended up being told I'm killing my mother by ceasing contact with them after confronting them. Them and siblings believe I have major mental issues and need professional help. I'm the problem. Okay, my parents, now 70 plus years old, are entitled, insane, stupid, and more. You will see. Some of these will include other people, which I won't go into detail about, but if asked in the comments, I'll be more than happy to share. The earliest bullcrap I recall is about 6 years old. Might be off, it was quite some time ago. We were at the beach as a family. Mom, dad, brother, sister. I was allowed to wander off because why bother watching a kid at a massively crowded beach? This one tears me, because I recall 3 things clearly. My wandering off and walking into a freshly covered fire pit, couldn't tell it was there, and burning the soles of my feet. Or the conflicting image of my father being like Superman and showing up within seconds to sweep me off my feet and to water to wash off the embers. But I also remember hearing, if you'd have listened, this wouldn't have happened. Great, huh? So, around 7 or 8 years old, my father beat me with a leather belt for refusing to sing along to a song in the car ride home from a road trip. Hell of a way to encourage someone with talent, right? Throughout my youth, several things would occur that they would ignore, blame me for, or better yet, pretend never happened. These include my brother beating me, bouncing on my head on the floor, black belt martial arts with anger issues he was/is, choking me to almost blacking out, using me as a punching bag unwillingly. I remember he would force me to lay down and then jump up and down with his body weight, 4 years older than me, on my gut. My parents would just say play nice, regardless of bruises and pain. Elementary school was constant bullying, beatings, pesterings, and ridicule. Nobody at home gave a damn. They'd just tell me to try harder to make friends. Were there times where, let's say, my brother would say he'd have my back if needed? Yeah. Did he ever though? No. Now, in middle school, one kid, who ended up in asylum for animal torture and death threats, tried to kill me. Twice. For not helping him cheat on a maths test. This included trying to strangle me with a shoelace, and dangling me over a 3-flight stairwell. Now, in middle school, I was 12 to 14. When I told my mother about it, she told me it was fine. She never did more than speak to the principal about it, not even ask if I'm okay. Remember, I'm around 12 or 13. Now, by high school, I'd gone through 14 years of not good enough, and try harder, and why do you always, when things didn't go their way. 14 years of them pushing my buttons until I would explode, and then give me physical and psychological hell for it. By that time, drugs! Yay! That was sarcasm. They helped me with tolerating them. Grades started to take a downward spiral, and by 17 they weren't even paying attention to me. I remember going off to meet a girl when I was 17. I was gone for 5 days. I came back home one winter night, shaved head, way underdressed for negative 30 degrees Celsius, and had walked over 20 kilometers to get home. A friend found me walking and drove me the 25 kilometers I had left. I could barely stand, keep my eyes open, and was vibrating from hypothermia. Mum's reaction when her frozen 17-year-old son showed up in the middle of February in a cold snap, "Oh, it's you," and went to bed. Next day, I got a tongue lashing about waking her up in the middle of the night. Later that year, I was offered to go finish school in a private Catholic institution across the country in Saskatchewan. It no longer exists as a private school, but it is now a public institution with heavy religious bias. Good weed though. So I was deported to a boarding school, to live in the same town as my sister, who graduated when I was 12 and left that same year. Almost zero contact in 5 years. Now, I'm being told remotely by the parents that I'm a screw-up, while being told the same by a sister who never gave a crap about me and knows absolutely less than crap about me. When that clusterfuck finished and I got to leave and be on my own, things were not better. No decisions I made were ever good enough, but they would never have suggestions. It was always easy to call me a screw-up or even see me as one, rather than just be helpful parents. Skip a few years of massive drug and alcohol abuse, plus one almost loss of life requiring emergency surgery to remove my gallbladder. I'm 22 and now have a son with a woman who betrayed me. My parents? Oh, blame me and love her. They do everything they can to appear the ideal grandparents, while allowing me to suffer by how the mother mistreats me. I spend 10 years fighting to become clean, sober, and build a relationship with my son. Went back to school in 2004 and got a post-secondary education. Small, but better than none. Built myself back up day by day and beat my demons. No more drinking or drugs other than weed for focus. Over the years, my brain has started working on overtime 24/7 due to constantly being in survival mode. At this point, I'm 32, I'm with my girlfriend, now wife, for 2 years, and am building a better and better life with my son and wife. Sturdy job, good income, improving life conditions, rebuilding credit and finances. Life's good. So, I tried at this point to rebuild a relationship that was broken with the parents. I'd bring my son once a month to see them, spend the weekend, and do as much with them as I could. But over time, and as my wife, girlfriend, would learn, my parents would often request us to come down and then be too busy or book some sort of food gig, etc. So we'd end up wasting 3 hours drive, the gas, car wear and tear, arranging to have my son, etc. for nothing. This went on for a few years. Every time I would face a dilemma, I'd go to my parents, because that's what you should be able to do. They'd never have input, but they'd always be the first to criticize my choices I'd make. That was my whole life on parental guidance. Added, missed earlier, context, my entire life was gone from Sunday nights to Friday nights for work. So he was home 1.5 days a week, spent at least 1 day with his siblings and my mum, and a couple of hours for us, and a few hours to do stuff around the house. I tell people I didn't have a father, because realistically I didn't. Although at this point in my life I'd repaid every dime that I'd ever borrowed, whether legit or for drugs, because even as a junkie I was using to numb the pain. I was aware of what I was doing, and it killed me for years. But I did what I had to do to survive. I don't feel guilty, I'm just glad I was able to return it all. Regardless that I'd self-funded my post-secondary education, found some solid work, lots of experience contracts, and was improving my resume, it was never good enough. Remember the music thing from the start where I got a beating? I'm too old for that. So they would try to convince my wife to twist my arm into playing/singing songs at parties. My wife would side with me and put her foot down. Tell them if I wanted to do it, I would do it. But that's how they are. They play games. Now, peppered into the last few years, heavy criticism about me raising my son poorly. We'll get back into that in the comments, if you were. I was doing everything that they did not do. My son is currently 15, and I can tell you, they've willingly taken him with them twice, other than an ice cream trip as a toddler, his whole life. They've called him less than 10 times. Presents? Sure. Can't appear completely careless, but he knows next to nothing about them, other than Grandma makes good food and Grampy is mean. Great memories to have, huh? Well, late last year, I confronted them about using me. Again! Because they'd come visit us, only because they were in town to see Costco. I'd confronted my sister for calling to ask to visit when I hadn't even had a call from her in 3 years. Same with my brother, who I'd last heard from, came by for a shower after work because he was locked out of his hotel and didn't bother staying more than 10 minutes to talk. Long argument short, ironic for the post, right? I'm selfish for wanting them to stop using me. I'm not thankful enough for what they did, even if they imagine things they did. Can elaborate if you ask in the comments. I'm killing my mother by hurting her from wanting to cut ties. All I can see is the bad they did. I can't see that they accepted to pay for summer camp. I'm a monster for saying the things I said to them, regardless of how true. They would rather lose a child than just say, okay, we'll stop using you as a pit stop. Welcome to the very brief highlight of my life. Those are the only parts that implicate my parents directly. And now some comments. Holy crap, man, have you seen a therapist about any of this? It doesn't seem healthy to keep it bottled. I've recently started to. Some bullcrap drama started last year leading to all of this. I was able to get in with someone before the pandemic. So I get phone sessions in lieu of in-person, and I'm happy with that. It's nice to talk to someone. And no, it's not healthy. It led to many poor choices, bad paths, and dark days. You're not selfish for cutting contact. Why poison yourself? You tried, they're insane. Just forget about them and drop the crappy concept of that you came out of her vajayjay. You owe her nothing. It was never your choice, and crappy choice for them to choose to have kids when they are this toxic. I feel no guilt, shame, nothing. I'm relieved and making leaps and bounds in progress and bettering myself since I have completely severed ties. Smiley face. Alright, there was more comments down there than that, but I can't really be bothered reading them because it's a lot to go through. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. Tell me what you thought about these entitled parent stories down in the comments. If you didn't notice the confidence picking up a little bit towards the end there, that's because I did have some Absolut vodka and some cordial because I'm celebrating this Sunday because it's a nice day in Ireland and I'm happy in isolation. And you should be too. I hope you have some wine, have whatever you have to keep you happy and keep spirits up. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well today. Tell me what you're up to. Hope you're having a good evening, day, night, whatever you're up to. I'm gonna read that little, thing that I read all the time because it warms my heart. So guys, I love you today, tomorrow, next week, and until I die. Now go to sleep and forget today and dream about tomorrow. I love you guys. I hope you have a good one. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.